Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers. Great to have you back with us again on the show as we talk Georgia State athletics. On this latest show, we're talking Georgia State football and strength and conditioning with first-year strength and conditioning coach Mike Sirignano, as well as starting quarterback Darren Grainger. The Panthers are off to their best start in program history and will continue the challenging schedule throughout October into November. Next 3 games with Marshall at home, road games at Louisiana and Georgia Southern. Georgia State football tickets available by calling the Athletics Ticket Office at 404-413-4020. You can also visit online at georgiastatesports.com. As always, before we get to this week's podcast guests, thanks to all of our Panther fans who have subscribed, rated, and reviewed our first 120 shows. If you've missed any of our previous podcasts, they're all available on the Apple Archives page. You can access that online at georgiastatesports.com. Again, we're talking college football on this latest Panther Insider podcast, so let's first welcome one of the new faces on the staff, and that is the new strength and conditioning coach, Mike Sirignano, to the Panther radio microphones. Great to have you on the Panther Insider podcast for the first time, and I guess I would ask, your journey to Georgia State really involves your connection to head football coach Sean Elliott, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I lose track of years, but probably 2010, 2011 is when I met Coach Elliott at the University of South Carolina. I got lucky enough to have an opportunity to go coach there. And as soon as I met him, I knew he was cut from the same cloth I was, and that I kind of wanted to be a fly on the wall around him. And we got really close there at South Carolina, and then he helped me along my way in my career going to App State. And then he tried to hire me a few times back, and as he told the team this morning, I was finally cheap enough to come here. So, here we are today, and it's been fun. It's always a good time when you're around Coach Elliott, and it's good being around people that are kind of, again, like I said, cut from the same cloth you are.
You got an interesting radio voice. You ever think about jumping over to the other side here where I'm at?
Well, funny story, back in the day in high school, I ran all the pep rallies and stuff for our high school and did some stuff there in college. So people have always told me that. The problem is I favor 4-letter words, and I don't know if that's clean enough for radio these days.
Yeah, probably not unless you're on Sirius XM. But, we're going to talk about relationships and, go back over all of your stops. But your journey to Georgia State, when you first get here and you're going through that process of having to meet all of these players and kind of get them, adjusted to your style of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, so I've done this 3 or 4 times now that we've reset or rebuilt some programs. So for me, it's kind of second nature. But I think one of the easier transitions for me, being I think my 3rd or 4th time, was coming to the team meeting room, and Coach Elliott and the staff weren't there. They were on the recruiting trail. So it was me out on top of the platform, so to speak, and these guys knew, and there was a couple guys in the room that knew who I was and had played with me before, and we got the ball rolling real quick because whatever I say, I do. That's the kind of person I am, and that got filtered through the grapevine pretty quickly. And, we just set a bunch of standards and built off those standards every single day, and they found out real quick that I was here and I was going to be one of the most consistent guys in the building every single day.
The interesting thing from my vantage point about strength and conditioning coaches, and correct me if I'm wrong because you're in the business, but there are times when programs have a down season. Sometimes position coaches will come and go because that's the nature of that business, but I've seen it a couple of times where the strength and conditioning coach will change, and that seems to be ground zero with changing the aura of the program. Have you kind of noticed that in the stops that you've made in your career?
Yeah, when you want to make the biggest change as far as culture and the day-to-day efforts of your team and the way they're going to perform when they're asked to perform, for me, it always comes to the strength coach because we're with them the most. We probably have the best relationships with them. We know them the best. Not saying the position coaches don't have relationships with them, but they have more of a work relationship with them, whereas we have an everyday personal relationship with them. We learn how they tick. We we watch their body language. We know when there's something wrong with them. So we have a lot more conversations surrounding their personal life. So, yeah, it's tough to say that. In my aspect, being a little bit biased, I try to do the right things every single day. Now, I've been fired. I come at it. I see it through a different light, so to speak. But for me, it's just being consistent every single day and making sure a standard is always the standard from one day to another, and make sure we never go away from those standards, because that's when you go away from that stuff, the kids, they'll take an inch. You give them an inch, sorry, they'll take a mile. And you don't want that to happen, because that's a snowball effect, and it rolls downhill pretty quickly.
One thing I've noticed, too, just kind of being a casual observer from the radio booth and on the sideline, and they say this all the time, that, players will tend to take on the personalities of their coaches. And that could be across multiple sports. Do you ever find that because, as you said, you spend maybe as much, if not more time with a lot of these student athletes than even some of the position coaches or coaches do, that some of these student athletes will tend to take on the personalities, per se, the work ethic of their strength and conditioning guys?
In past experiences, yes. With the different head coaches, yes, for sure. I think the greatest thing about this program is that everyone in the building knows that it's Coach Elliott's program, and he's the tip of the spear every single day. I think what makes it easy for me, and what maybe hasn't happened here in the past, is I am that same guy. We act the same way, we do the same things, we say the same mannerisms, we have the same quotes, we have the same mentality. So now it's like, now the players see it at every corner, which makes it pretty special, because as you've seen, we've flipped this thing pretty quickly. And in my past experiences, whether it be Appalachian State or Louisville, it hasn't happened that quickly. Whereas these guys came out of the gate right away, and they knew exactly what was expected of them, because they get it from the team room to the weight room to the practice field to when we're doing speed and conditioning training. They get it all the time from basically the same person. He just have gray hair, and I don't.
Talking to Mike Sirignano, the strength and conditioning coach here on the Panther Insider podcast, driven by Ford. So when you come in, going back a few months now, what do you emphasize? Like not just at the beginning, but on a daily basis. What are your points of emphasis with regards to the process of developing these student athletes in your area, which is here in the strength and conditioning and what we would normally in the old days call the weight room?
Mm-hmm. So the thing we start with first is controlling the controllables, right? So the first thing is going to be your attitude. No matter what's happening in your life, you got to have great attitude. Anything with a smile on your face is going to be done so much better than with a frown on your face. So we learned how to control our attitude first. If we have a great attitude, we're going to give great effort. It doesn't matter what the obstacle is. It doesn't matter if it's lifting weights, running stadiums, practicing, or playing a football game, right? If you give great effort, that will be the deciding factor in most games. The skill set is the skill set. So that's kind of the first thing we try to change. A lot of times, we just got to have fun. We got to bring fun back to the game. If you ask the coach, if you ask the players, yeah, I'm hard on them. Coach Elliott's hard on them, but we also like to have a lot of fun. We can go from 0 to 100 real quick and back down to 0 real fast as well. So controlling the controllables for me when building a culture, building a team is going to be the thing that you have to emphasize the most every single day. And then just educating, right? Knowledge is power. It doesn't matter if we're in the business world or in the football world, is we got to continue to give these kids knowledge so they have power, so they can go out and do things on their own, get better on their own, and really know the why behind what we do, because you can't just be doing things in life. It doesn't matter if it's in football or anywhere else. You got to have a why behind what we're doing, and I think if you keep that in the windshield and never put in the rearview mirror, I think you're going to get a lot more out of the guys. And once they see the results, you know what I mean, and you take baby steps and you progress and you never try to stay the same, like no day for me is the same. We always try to get better at something, whether that's one more rep, a faster time, this, that, or the other thing, a heavier load. We're always proving to the athlete that they can do more, because really at the end of the day, I know this, but they probably don't know, is they're not going to hit their genetic peak until 26, 28 years old. So we can always push the envelope.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. You played college football, Bridgewater State up in Massachusetts. Got a couple of Massachusetts folks here on the microphone. 2-time Division III All-American, 3-time All-New England honoree, 3-time Eastern Athletic Conference All-Star. So you have walked the walk and you have talked the talk at Bridgewater State. Talk a little bit about your playing days and what kind of led you to want to get into strength and conditioning. It's not a job that people wake up and say, yeah, I want to get into that.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I cut my teeth, so to speak. When I arrived on campus, I was the best player on the field, and we weren't a great team, and I had natural leadership skills. So and we didn't have much. We didn't have strength coaches. We had part-time position coaches, this, that, and the other thing. So, I wasn't there to lose. I was there to win because I've won my whole life. So, I started to build my programs back then with my teammates, going to the dorm rooms at 6 a.m. and waking them up for mat drills and doing stuff like that, and making sure all summer long we got groups of guys training and not just going home and hanging out, partying and working and stuff, so to speak. But there was a lady on campus. Her name was Ellen Robinson. So I first started off as a criminal justice major. Then I got a little trouble, and I was like, this ain't going to work out. So I saw this lady every single day in the gym, and she was teaching a class. And finally, I just went up to her, and I was like, ma'am, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm an Olympic strength and conditioning coach. And I was like, can I get a major in that? And she's like, yeah, you can. I was like, well, I'm good at two things. I'm good at lifting weights and playing football. And she's like, why don't you come back? Why don't you change your major and start coming to my classes? And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And then, that was it. I met her. She's one of the best coaches I've ever had in my life. She refined my tools, so to speak. As far as the techniques, adapting the sciences to what you actually do in the weight room. And then I started doing it with my teammates, and, we went on, and I had all the individual accolades, as you said, but we also won the first ever playoff game at our school, and did that 2 years in a row, and did stuff like that. And going from my junior year to my senior year, I was the only all-conference player left on the team. 11 other all-conference players graduated. So we had taken that team, which was a young team, led by myself, and we won another playoff game, which was only the second time in university history. So cut my teeth back in, just kind of being the person I've been every single day since I was 18, 19 years old, and just trying to build on it and keep in perspective on what I do right and what I do wrong, and always trying to get better.
And you're originally from Massachusetts, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Revere, Massachusetts, and then went to high school in Hanover, Massachusetts. So I left Massachusetts at 21 years old. Opened a gym up in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, next to CVS headquarters, on a $40,000 credit card. Was uber successful then, and with that, and then I was like, this ain't for me. I got to get back. I got to be around competition and stuff of that nature. At the same time, I was training to be a world champ power lifter. I was doing really well in that, but I needed to be around more like-minded individuals. So I ended up selling the business and bankrolled myself into working for free for a few years. Became the youngest head strength coach in the country at the University of Rhode Island, where I had 721 athletes out of a 1,500 square foot weight room, and continue to do what my parents had taught me and just work hard and find ways to get things done. And did some really bad stuff to athletes as far as techniques and loads and volumes and stuff like that. So I had to learn real quick because I didn't have any mentors, so to speak. Excuse me, until I got to the University of South Carolina, when I met Coach Elliott and Coach Spurrier and all those guys.
It's been quite a journey from Bryant to Northeastern, so from Rhode Island to downtown Boston. As you mentioned, Rhode Island, North Carolina at Elon, then at South Carolina, and then 4 or 5 years at Appalachian State, Louisville, and then Georgia State. You've kept that U-Haul in the side yard, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, the first 4 were pretty easy. They're pretty close to each other. I started at Bryant, was a volunteer there when they were going from Division II to 1AA and running my business. Then I sold my business. I went up to Northeastern and they cut the football program the day I arrived. And I was like, why the heck am I here? So spent a few months there working with a swimming and diving team. And then University of Rhode Island called. They needed a head football strength coach. And then went up there to do that, make $1,000 a month, no benefits, nothing. And then within 6 months, they made me the director of all the athletes. Stayed there 2.5 years. Then had a Massachusetts connection to Coach Swepson, who was coming over from NC State but coached at Boston College for a very long time. He hired me. I was there for 22 days as the head strength coach for the football team, and then went on to University of South Carolina. And then, those 2.5 years at South Carolina were real special because I saw a lot of things from the outside looking in, but also being from the inside looking out, because South Carolina was one of those programs that hadn't done a lot historically. There wasn't a lot of tradition. And Coach Spurrier and his staff were building that. In those 2.5 years there, we won 11 games, and they made it 3 years in a row, going 11-2, being ranked real high. And, I said, this is something we can do all the time to another program. And at that time, I was learning about Appalachian State. One of my best friends had lost in the national championship game to them, where Appalachian State ran inside zone 17 plays in a row to win the game. And I was like, that's the type of program I want to work for one day, is they're just opposing their will on these guys. And Coach introduced me to App State, and his roommate was Scott Satterfield. He got me connected with him. I drove up the mountain and never left until we went over to Louisville.
Lastly, I want to ask you about two players in particular that I think you've had a big effect on. Number one, Darren Grainger, from a year ago to what he is today. Strength, weight, so on and so forth. And Jontre Hunter, moving from the outside to the inside. Strength, putting on weight. Talk about those two real quick.
I think you start with DG. So DG, when I got here, was a kid that smiled all the time, and he weighed probably around 200 pounds. And as the quarterback, you got to be the guy. You got to be the guy. You're going to take all the blame, and you're most likely going to take all the accolades too. But he kind of walked around as a guy that wasn't that. He would pat his teammates on the back, but when something went wrong, you couldn't really find DG. So we made it a point real quick that, hey, man, you're going to be on the top of the mountain all the time. And whether the O-lineman's jumping off sides or this, that, and the other thing, you got to lead your teammates in a way we got to get to the next play. And you got to start owning the ground you walk on every single day. And he did that, and he responded. And it bled into his nutrition. It bled into the way he trained. It bled into the way he ran. He really didn't train like a quarterback. He trained probably like a D lineman. And because of that, he put on 20-something pounds. He's got a lot more velocity on the ball. But again, coming back to what he's doing best for our team right now is he is a tremendous leader. And because of that, he's become a better student of the game as well. He is not just committed to this game, he's definitely devoted, and there's a big difference. As far as Jontre Hunter goes, when I first got here, he was coming off of shoulder surgery. Everyone told me this sucker can't gain any weight, this, that, and the other thing. And he was on our leadership council. He didn't show up for the first meeting. And me and him had a conversation in this office, and I said, that's the last time that's ever going to happen, and you're going to fully commit to being an NFL player. And that's exactly what he did. He was 208 pounds. When I think I arrived, he got all the way up to 252 pounds. He worked his butt off through his shoulder rehab, probably pushing the envelope more than our athletic training staff wanted, and he became a leader. And he's more of a chip on your shoulder leader because he is the guy that brings the boom. He's got an attitude to him. He plays football the right way, but he's a special athlete. He's 6'3". He's playing at 238 pounds, and he has great feet, great hips. He runs really fast. I know the scouts are really excited about him. But it's all because of what he decided to do, just like DG is. He decided to become devoted to this thing. And when you become devoted to something, it means something. You start sacrificing things you haven't sacrificed before. And you start to go places you've never been. And that's exactly, as a whole, I think we've done better than any team I've been around before. It's just going places that we haven't been, and that's why we've had some success. Of course, we got to execute. Of course, we got to be in the right spots. Of course, the coaches got to scheme up. But at the end of the day, these kids know that they can rely on one thing, and that's toughness. And I'll end it with this. This is the first time in my career that we went through 25 practices during camp, 25 days during camp. Not one guy sat out from an injury. Not one nick, not one shoulder, not one nothing. Every single guy practiced. And we practice hard. We hit every single day. We scrimmage 2.5 scrimmages a week. And for me to see that and be able to stand in front of the group and tell those guys that, guys, over 20 seasons of me doing this, I've never seen this before. You guys are some of the toughest SOBs in the country. So rely on that. Get educated in the room. Knowledge is power, but do what you do every single day. You've proved it up to this point. Let's go be special.
Coach, appreciate you joining us. Great talking to you, and let's have some continued success as we move along throughout the season.
Awesome. I appreciate it. We'll try to do that.
All right. First segment of our Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. Want to thank strength and conditioning coach Mike Sirignano. On the other side of this timeout, we'll talk with starting quarterback Darren Grainger. Again, following these words from Ford and Center Park Credit Union.
Wherever you go this fall, greatness starts in a Ford SUV. That's because Ford Escape, Explorer, and the spirited Bronco Sport SUVs have the power, cargo space, and smart tech you need for tailgating on game day, camping under the stars, fall festivals, romantic dinner dates, concerts, antiquing, pumpkin picking, weekend getaways, school plays. For great offers on these versatile SUVs, see your local Ford dealer today. Greatness starts here.
Center Park Credit Union, the official financial sponsor of GSU football, is proud to be a part of the Georgia State community and the Panther Athletics program. Center Park provides members convenient financial services. In addition to online banking, mobile banking, and 7 Metro Atlanta branches, Center Park members have access to 5,000 co-op shared branches and 75,000 surcharge-free ATMs nationwide. To find a location near you, visit online at centerpark.org/contact, and that's park with a C. Not a member? Join today at centerpark.org. At Center Park, we help our members flourish. We're back on the Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford here from Center Park Credit Union Stadium. And time now to welcome to the Panther Radio microphones on the podcast veteran quarterback Darren Grainger. And Darren, thanks for joining us. Again, this team off to a good start this year. We were just talking to Mike Sirignano, the strength and conditioning coach, and really the effect that he's had on the program and the effect that he's had on you in particular. First off, I want to say, congratulations again on the great start. I know there's a lot more games to play. Congratulations on being mentioned for the Manning Award watch list, the Maxwell Award watch list, and again, getting off to such a great start.
Yeah, we're playing some good football right now. We kind of went into the bye week not with the finish that we wanted to, but, it gave us time to refocus, recoup, and, come back better, to finish these last 7 games off.
I know we talked a lot during the summer, and last year didn't go quite like everybody would have liked it to have gone, and that you guys started preparing for this season really at the very end of last season. And I say that again, and I know it's water under the bridge behind us, but Coach Sirignano's arrival at Georgia State was a big part of beginning to get ready for this season, wasn't it?
Yeah, him coming in and just trying to build a different culture that we haven't had before. Him coming in January and then putting us in places that we've never been before, coming out early mornings, running, conditioning his first week here, just putting guys in uncomfortable situations. You get in games and you go through adversity and you go through those uncomfortable times. A team might have a lead on you, or you having some bad plays back to back, and being able to respond from those moments. So him putting us in those moments help us in those games where we go through the adversity and be able to respond.
What were some of the differences that you've noticed in your career, both at high school and collegiately, because you've been at 2 stops now, Furman and Georgia State. And Coach and I were talking about, sometimes when things aren't going well during a particular season, strength and conditioning coaches tend to go, they tend to come and go, and they bring in a different philosophy and a different work ethic and really a different approach to what we call strength and conditioning. What did you notice from, say, a year or two ago since you arrived at Georgia State to the new regime now running that strength and conditioning room?
I think his main focus was really having the players hold the players accountable. They have a quote that they say all the time: player-led teams win championships. So, they wanted to really put the emphasis on the leaders and guys being able to hold other people accountable and, being more vocal, making sure our leaders are leading us the right way, making sure we're being disciplined, being accountable, and, just little things, just being on time, wearing the right stuff to work out, foot behind the line, just little things like that, just holding people accountable with those things, and, those lead to bigger things to hold people accountable.
Well, you've played this game long enough at the position that you play to know that is always one of the positions of leadership. You're, for the second season in a row, a team captain at Georgia State. And it seems to me, as I know you, that you've kind of, approached that role and have embraced that role of being a leader, both on the field, but a leader vocally in the locker room and in the weight room.
Yeah, I haven't always been that type of guy. I've always been a guy, I'm a laugh, joke around, just kind of keep the mood light, not really talkative, just kind of lead by example. But, going into my last year, getting comfortable with these guys, knowing I could hold these guys accountable and we won't have any bickering back and forth. But, just really just taking that role, Coach Knight talked about it, Coach Mike talked about it, just being that leader, just being more vocal, just holding these guys accountable. And that's something I've been trying to work on, just trying to, kind of embrace that role, and I feel like I'm, stepping into it more this year.
You see that in other players. I know you were supposed to go with us to Sunbelt Media Day in New Orleans. You were not feeling well and didn't make the trip. So Travis Glover ends up coming. And we had a very similar conversation because I remember the freshman Travis Glover that came in from Vienna, Georgia, the same way I remember the transfer Darren Grainger that came in after almost beating us here in the stadium with the Furman Paladins, and just how different Travis is today than he was, that maturation process. And I don't mean just football. I mean as a young man. And you've kind of gone through that same process as all kids do.
Yeah, just especially coming in my first year, not knowing what my role would be, just not knowing a lot of guys. You coming into a new environment, whether you need to be vocal here or there, but, as you build that chemistry, as you build those relationships, you're able to be more vocal with guys, hold guys accountable. And so I feel like really just the years of building chemistry and building those relationships with the guys has helped me step more and embrace this vocal role as a leader.
Certainly getting off to a good start this year has made the road paved a little smoother. A little bump on the road in the Troy game, but just getting off to that good start certainly has made for a much more pleasant experience at the stadium, whether it's practice, whether it's team meetings, whether it's watching film, whether it's game, actual game day.
Yeah, we love seeing the crowd come out there. We love seeing the impact that they can have on the game, and having those people in the crowd cheering us on. We love to see that, and I kind of see it in the stadium, when we come into practice, coming to meetings, just the energy that guys bring, the energy that guys bring to practice, it's different than past years, especially, the past 2 years I've been here, we haven't started off great. So, just seeing the energy from the guys, seeing the guys come out to practice, come out to work, and, it's been great to see, great to see that turning point in the program.
Well, focusing it on you, when you look at a picture of Darren Grainger a year ago, when you were the leading rusher for Georgia State, ahead of both Tucker and Jemias, you guys were like kind of the three-headed monster as far as a rushing game. But I know one of the things in talking to Coach Sirignano in the previous segment was that you focused on being a leader and you focused on your team, but you also focused on Darren Grainger from a strength and conditioning standpoint, because you were taking, you're going to take shots if you're going to run the football, and you put on, I think, 15 to 25 pounds total. You're still fast, but you're also a lot bigger and stronger.
Yeah, our biggest thing really was going into the offseason was helping me be more durable. I probably played around 195 last year, maybe got to like 200 by the end of the season. But, getting to that 220 range, 225 range, just being able to take hits and, be durable throughout the season, because with our program, we run the quarterback a lot. So just being able to take those hits and being able to still be durable and still be healthy as I can.
Well, it's obviously showing. As of this recording, you've got a completion rate of 68%. You're almost at 1,200 yards in 5 games, 7 touchdowns, couple of interceptions. You had gone the first 4 without, but you've also rushed it almost 60 times, and you're averaging about 5 yards a carry. So you're getting it done, whether it's in the air or whether it's on the ground. You did have to become, as you progress, a little bit bigger and stronger.
Yeah, I feel like our balance in our offense is just being able to throw the ball and being able to run the ball. And then when I could help in the running game as well, open up some lanes for Marcus Carroll, we just kind of help each other out. They want to focus on Marcus, then I could peel out and I could make some runs. They want to focus on me, then he has some runs, some open lanes for him. And then, just progression in the passing game, coaching practicing with Coach McKnight, he's really improved my game a lot, just going through progressions, going through my reads, and just making sure I'm calm and relaxed in the pocket. I feel like he's been a big improvement, big help to my game, and I really appreciate him for doing all that.
2 guys I really wanted to quickly ask you about, because sometimes in football you have to kind of wait your turn. You didn't really. The quarterbacks don't. But, actually you did when you first got here. I'll correct myself on that. You just mentioned Marcus Carroll. He had a breakout game last year. It kind of opened everybody's eyes at Southern Miss, but it was primarily, Tucker, Jemias, and you. And Marcus is having a fantastic year. And another guy who showed a lot of signs last year, the kid in front of him ended up transferring, is Robert Lewis, who's off to a great start this year.
Yeah, those two guys are probably one of the 2 hardest working people I've ever seen. The way they come to practice every day, the way they come to work, those are two special guys, and I love coming to work with those guys. Marcus is a big ball of energy, and he comes to practice. We know when Marcus is having a good day. He come to practice. He has a lot of juice, a lot of excitement, and you love being around those type of guys. And then Robert, he's just one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. Stand on the jugs after practice, working on, releases and stuff like that, working on just catching the ball and all those things in nature. But, those guys just make my job easier. Him on the outside, I think he's probably at 500 yards already, top in the country, somewhere around there. Then Marcus, I think he has 9 touchdowns, top in the country rushing. But, those guys just making my job easier. We talk about it in the quarterback room, just give the playmakers the ball, let them make plays. So, just being with those guys, they just, like I said, they just make my job easier.
When you made the decision to transfer to Georgia State, and you're still playing here, but when you can sit and look back at it, your experience, your relationship with the coaches, above and beyond everything else, your relationship with everybody in that locker room with you, your relationship with the radio guy. I'm just kidding. Has it been everything that you hoped that it would be coming from Greenville to Atlanta?
Yes, because I feel like the biggest thing, coming here and playing Georgia State and not knowing anybody, just looking toward the sideline and looking in the crowd, I just felt like a family atmosphere. I just felt a close-knit bond that the team had with each other, and then coming here and actually being in it, seeing it, and just, believing in the culture, you see it each and every day. Coaches, doors are always open. Go in there, sit with them, talk with them, things in those nature. And then you have the guys in the locker room, big locker room. It's a lot of space. And, you see different groups. We talking to each other. We communicate with each other all throughout the locker room. I think I could probably communicate with a lot of people throughout the locker room. But, just building that family knit, you go fight a little harder for your family. So, just building that bond, building that culture I feel like that's what I was looking for, and then that's what I got coming here.
You probably didn't think about it at the time, and you probably won't think about it till your career at Georgia State is over. But you're going to go down as one of the great quarterbacks to have played at Georgia State. again, that's something that you're continuing to build your Georgia State resume, but it's kind of cool knowing that that's out there. Yeah. And that your name is going to go with the previous great quarterbacks that have played here.
Yeah, that's a tremendous honor, coming here and just kind of building my legacy as we want to talk about, just and continuing to build it as we talk about it right now. But, it's real cool to think about, be able to tell my kids, be able to just talk about it with my guys, just building that legacy. And, I've done it with some tremendous guys. And, when you think about my legacy, you think about the memories that I have with these guys that's in the locker room. And, it's a great thing to think about for real.
I know you've had some great moments. Earlier this year, Georgia State went on the road to your hometown of Conway, South Carolina, and beat Coastal Carolina. And from what I understand, you grew up and lived 5-10 minutes from that stadium. That had to have been, when you look back at it, just from today on, there's, again, still a lot more to do. When that final horn sounds and you're on the field, to have come back home to face Coastal Carolina and on national television, on the radio as well, but what a feeling.
It was a great feeling, a special moment, especially being able to have a bunch of my family there, a bunch of my friends. I think I probably had like 30-some, close to 40 tickets. I literally just started calling people and was like, you need tickets? Like, I got extra if you need it. But, it was good. And then my high school, they even they canceled the JV game on Thursday, moved it to Wednesday so the high school team could come. So, that was a special moment, coming back home, getting a W, and just being able to celebrate it with my family. It was just a special moment for me.
All right, last question. What does Darren Grainger see himself doing in a year or two? Are you still playing football? What have you studied at Georgia State in your time here? And maybe even further down the line, what would you like to do career-wise?
Obviously want to, pursue football as long as I can. But I have a degree in sociology, maybe try to do something with that. But I've also thought about coaching football. So, wherever the Lord takes me, I just want to take my best opportunity and whatever I could do. But I would love to keep doing sports, something in sports, whether it's playing or it's coaching.
Yeah, it's tough to get it out of your blood.
It is. It's very hard.
Darren, always appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you, and thanks for joining us on the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford.
Appreciate you for having me.
All right, that is one of the greats in Georgia State quarterback in the quarterback room when you're talking Georgia State quarterbacks. But want to thank Darren for taking a few minutes and joining us. Also want to thank Mike Sirignano in his first year here, the strength and conditioning coach, for joining us on the podcast. As a reminder to Georgia State fans, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you download your podcasts. And we're back again soon. We'll have another special guest or two on the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening. Go Panthers, and we'll see you at Center Park Credit Union Stadium.